ordered the wrong girl." The words came out shaky, like they'd been held back too long and finally slipped free. The train station smelled of cold smoke and cold iron. Wind swept across the wooden platform, carrying dust from the prairie and tugging at skirts, coats, and hats. The town of Red Willow, Wyoming, wasn't much more than a line of buildings pressed against the horizon. But to her, it felt like the edge of the world. Eleanor May Carter stood there clutching a small leather suitcase with both hands, her knuckles pale. Her dress was plain, cream-colored, carefully mended at the sleeves. Her boots were scuffed, too thin for Wyoming winters. She looked nothing like the photograph she'd mailed months ago. Behind her, the train hissed like it was impatient to leave her behind. Across from her stood Caleb Whitmore, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a worn brown coat and a black hat pulled low over his eyes. He looked every inch the cowboy she'd imagined and feared. Lines etched his face, not from age, but from years of sun, wind, and responsibility. A man who didn't smile easily. He studied her quietly, eyes moving from her wind-angled hair to the suitcase that looked far too light to hold a whole life. "You ordered the wrong girl," Eleanor said again, swallowing hard. "There must be a mistake." Caleb didn't answer right away. Behind him, a little boy peeked out from his coat, dark-haired, wide-eyed, no older than 7. He held tight to Caleb's sleeve like the world might sweep him away if he let go. Caleb finally spoke. "No," he said calmly. "I ordered right." Eleanor blinked. "That can't be," she whispered. The letter described someone else, someone prettier, someone. She stopped herself before the word better slipped out. Caleb tilted his head slightly. "Letters don't always tell the truth." The boy tugged his sleeve. "Pa," he murmured. Caleb rested a hand on the boy's head. "It's all right, Noah." Eleanor's heart twisted. A child. She'd known, of course. The ad had said, "Widowed one son," but knowing it and seeing it were different things entirely. "I think you should send me back," she said quickly. I can take the next train east. I'll even pay for it myself." Caleb's eyes softened just a fraction. "Miss, the next train won't be here for 3 days, and this town ain't kind to women alone." She looked down at her boots. "I'm used to unkind places." That surprised him. They stood there as the train began to move. Metal screeching, wheels groaning. Eleanor turned her head just in time to see it disappear, taking her last chance of escape with it. Her chest tightened. Caleb cleared his throat. "You hungry?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "My ranch is a good 2 hours by wagon. Supper will be ready when we get there." She stared at him. "You're just taking me." "I am, but you don't even know me." He gave a small, humorless smile. "I know you showed up." Noah looked up at her now, curiosity replacing fear. "Are you going to be my mom?" Eleanor's breath caught. Caleb shot the boy a warning look. "Noah, I don't know," she said softly. "That's all right," Caleb said. "Neither do we." The wagon ride was quiet except for the creak of wood and the distant call of crows. The prairie stretched endlessly, golden grass swaying under a pale sky. Eleanor sat stiffly, hands folded in her lap, afraid to take up too much space. She thought of the orphanage in Missouri, of the matron's cold voice. "You should be grateful someone wants you at all." Caleb watched the road, but listened closely. He noticed the way she flinched when the wagon jolted too hard, the way she stared at the land like it might swallow her whole. When the ranch finally came into view, it wasn't the grand place she'd imagined from the letter. It was sturdy, weathered, alive with signs of work, fences that needed fixing, a barn leaning just slightly, smoke rising from the chimney. "This is home," Caleb said. Eleanor nodded, unsure what to feel. Inside the house smelled of bread and wood smoke. A woman older, sharp-eyed, looked up from the stove. "And this must be her," she said. "This is Mrs. Adler," Caleb explained. "She helps around the house." Mrs. Adler wiped her hands and studied Eleanor like a hawk. "You look thin." Eleanor flushed. "I eat. Good. You'll need strength here." Noah pulled Eleanor toward the table. "Come sit by me." She hesitated, then allowed herself to be guided. Supper passed quietly. Eleanor ate carefully, trying not to seem too eager. The food was simple but warm, and for the first time in weeks, her stomach felt full. Afterward, Caleb showed her a small room upstairs. "You can stay here," he said. "Nothing's expected of you tonight or tomorrow." She nodded, throat tight. "Thank you." As he turned to leave, she spoke again. "Mr. Whitmore." "Yes. You won't send me away in the morning." He looked back at her. Really looked at her. "Not unless you ask me to." That night, Eleanor lay awake listening to the house settle to Noah's soft footsteps down the hall to the wind outside. She pressed a hand to her chest, unsure whether the tightness there was fear or hope. Downstairs, Caleb sat alone at the table, staring at the unopened trunk she'd brought. He hadn't ordered a perfect woman. He'd ordered someone brave enough to come. And for the first time since his wife died, the house didn't feel quite so empty. That thought stayed with Caleb Whitmore as he sat alone at the kitchen table, the lamp casting a soft circle of light across worn wood. For years, nights had been something to survive rather than live through. Silence used to press against him until it felt like a weight on his chest. Tonight, the silence was still there, but it felt different. It had shape. It had breath. He rose slowly, as if sudden movement might shatter whatever fragile balance had settled over the house. He checked the locks out of habit, banked the fire, and stood at the bottom of the stairs longer than necessary. Upstairs, the floorboards were quiet, not empty. Quiet, that mattered. Eleanor did not sleep deeply. She never had, even here, even safe. Her body remembered too much. Still, there was something new beneath her restlessness, a softness like ground thawing after a long winter. She lay awake thinking about Caleb's voice when he said he wouldn't send her away unless she asked. No anger, no doubt, just a simple truth offered without demand that frightened her more than cruelty ever had. Morning arrived pale and cold, light seeping through the window like a careful guest. Eleanor dressed quietly and made her way downstairs, unsure of her place, but unwilling to hide. The kitchen greeted her with stillness in the faint smell of last night's fire. She stood there for a moment, hands clasped, then began to move. She lit the stove. She kneaded dough. She worked with steady, practiced motions, grounding herself in usefulness, because usefulness had always been her language of survival. When Caleb entered, he stopped short. "You don't have to," he began. "I know," she said gently. "I want to." He nodded once, accepting it, and something unspoken settled between them. Noah burst in not long after, full of noise and questions, life spilling out of him without restraint. Eleanor smiled at him, a real smile, and Noah beamed like he'd been waiting for it all along. Days passed, then weeks. Winter slowly loosened its grip, though the land stayed cold and stubborn. Eleanor learned the ranch inch by inch, not as a visitor, but as someone beginning to belong. She learned the animals, the fences, the rhythm of work. She learned that Caleb never raised his voice, that he fixed broken things even when it cost him sleep. that he carried grief quietly, like an old injury he'd learned to live with. Caleb learned her in return. He learned the way she startled at loud sounds, how she folded clothes with care that bordered on reverence, how she apologized for space she had every right to take. He learned that she worked not because she was asked, but because she feared stillness. One night after Noah had gone to bed, Caleb found Eleanor standing at the window, staring out at the fields dusted with moonlight. "You all right?" he asked. "Yes," she said. Then after a pause, "I think so." He stood beside her. "Not too close. Close enough. You know," he said quietly, "you don't have to earn your place here." Her breath hitched. "I don't know how to be anywhere without earning it." "That ain't your fault," he said. She looked at him, then really looked. "Will it ever stop feeling like I'm waiting to be sent away?" He answered without hesitation. "Not here." The certainty in his voice broke something open inside her. The first crack came with something small, a dropped cup. It shattered on the kitchen floor, porcelain scattering like startled birds. Eleanor froze instantly, her face draining of color. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I'll clean it. I'll replace it." "I didn't mean Eleanor," Caleb said softly. She flinched anyway. "It's just a cup." Her hands trembled. Years of memory pressed down on her all at once. Caleb stepped forward, careful, slow, and placed his hand over hers. "You're safe," he said. "You're not in trouble. Not now. Not ever." The words undid her. She cried then, silent, shaking sobs. She'd swallowed her whole life. Caleb didn't pull away. He didn't rush her. He stayed steady as the land outside until the storm inside her passed. After that, the house changed. Laughter came easier. Silence grew warmer. Eleanor stopped. She still flinched when footsteps sounded behind her. Without noticing, she began sitting closer at the table, humming softly while she worked. No one pointed it out, but everyone felt it. "Pa," he said one night, serious in the way only a child can be. "The house feels full now." Caleb swallowed, his throat tight. "Yes, son," he said quietly. "It really does." Spring came slowly, stubbornly forcing green shoots through frost-scarred soil. And with it came change. One afternoon, Eleanor opened her trunk, the one Caleb had never touched. Inside were only a few things: worn dresses, a book with a cracked spine, and a folded letter. "What's that?" Caleb asked gently. "A letter I never sent," she said. "I used to write it just to remind myself I still existed." She read it one last time, then folded it carefully and placed it back inside. "I don't think I need it anymore," she said. Caleb looked at her with something close to wonder in his eyes. That evening, as the sun sank low and painted the prairie in gold, Caleb spoke. "I'm not asking because I'm lonely," he said. "And I'm not asking because I need help." She waited. "I'm asking because I want you here with us, truly here." Her heart raced, but her voice stayed steady. "I don't know how to be a wife." "I don't know how to be a husband again," he replied. "Then we're even," she said. She smiled, a slow, brave smile, filled with quiet certainty. Yes. They married simply. No crowd, no spectacle. Mrs. Adler cried anyway. Noah stood proudly beside them, holding Eleanor's hand like it had always belonged there. The ranch didn't change overnight. Life was still work, weather, and quiet nights. But the house, once empty, became something else entirely. Eleanor learned that love didn't require fear. Caleb learned that grief didn't forbid happiness. Noah learned that family could be chosen, not just born. On the first night Eleanor shared Caleb's room, she stood by the window and whispered, "You really did order the wrong girl." Caleb smiled softly and drew her close. "No," he said. "I ordered exactly right." And this time, she believed him.